Re-export. Export imported goods, typically after further processing or manufacture. Sapid. Having a strong and pleasant taste. Semi-skilled. Needing or having some, but not extensive, training. Soutane. A type of cassock worn by Roman Catholic priests. Spondy. A foot, unit of poetic meter, consisting of two long, or stressed, syllables. Springtail. A minute wingless insect that uses a spring-like organ under the abdomen to leap when disturbed. Stephanotis. A climbing plant with fragrant waxy white flowers. Suppurate. Form or discharge pus. Tinging. Having a clear resounding tone or sound. Underdress. Be dressed too plainly or too informally for a particular occasion. Unmoor. Release the moorings of a boat or ship. Unweaned. Not weaned. Aquaplane. Of a vehicle, slide uncontrollably on a wet surface. Cake hole. Chiefly Brit. Candy tuft. A plant with small heads of white, pink, or purple flowers. Concuss. Hit someone on the head, making them temporarily unconscious or confused. Cool-headed. Not easily worried or excited. Earth-shattering. Informal, very important or shocking. Encyclopedist. A person who writes, edits, or contributes to an encyclopedia. Fermium. An unstable radioactive chemical element made by high-energy atomic collisions. Gear wheel. A toothed wheel in a set of gears. Heart-stopping. Very exciting. Ingly. Of one's own free will. Marmoreal. Literary, made of or resembling marble. Mendelevium. A very unstable chemical element made by high-energy collisions. Mudpuppy. A large aquatic salamander of the eastern U.S., reaching sexual maturity while retaining an immature body form with feathery external gills. Mukluk. A high, soft sealskin boot worn in the American Arctic. Mythopoeia. The making of a myth or myths. Non-being. The state of not being, non-existence. Off-peak. And adverb at a time when demand is fast. Provençal. Cooked in a sauce made with tomatoes, garlic, and herbs. Stage-struck. Having a passionate wish to become an actor. Teeth. Develop its first teeth. Yellow belly. Informal, a coward. Apropos. With reference to. Able-bodied. Physically fit and healthy. A bomb. An atom bomb. Abyssal. Relating to the depths of the ocean. Accident-prone. Tending to be involved in a greater than average number of accidents. Acidulate. Make something slightly acidic. Acac. Military, informal anti-aircraft gunfire or guns. Adaptogen. A natural substance believed to help the body adapt to stress. Adbot. A computer program that caches advertising on personal computers and then displays the advertising when certain linked programs are being used. Afro-American. And noun, another term for African American. Afrobeat. Afro-Caribbean. A person descended from African people who lives in or comes from the Caribbean. After-tax. Relating to income that remains after the deduction of taxes due. Agaric. A fungus with gills on the underside of the cap, e.g., a mushroom. Age-old. Very old. Aiguille. In a vague way. Aide-de-camp. A military officer acting as a personal assistant to a senior officer. Aide-de-memoire. A note or book used to help one remember something. Airy-fairy. Informal, chiefly Brit, vague and unrealistic. H-bone. The buttock or rump bone of cattle. All clear. A signal that danger or difficulty is over. Allegorize. Completely. Allegorize. Interpret or represent something symbolically. All-purpose. Having many uses, especially alt that might be expected from something of its type. Alpenstock. A long iron-tipped stick used by walkers in hilly country. Also ran. A person who is unsuccessful in a race or contest. Aluminize. Coat something with aluminum. Amphora. An ancient Greek or Roman jar with two handles and a narrow neck. Anal. Relating to the anus. An hour attentive. Psychoanalysis excessively fussy and concerned with orderliness, supposedly because of problems with toilet training in infancy. Andiron. Either of a pair of metal stands used to support wood-burning in a fireplace. Anglo-Catholic. A member of a section of the Church of England that is close to Catholicism in its beliefs and worship. Anglo-Indian. Relating to or involving both Britain and India. Anglo-Irish. Relating to both Britain and Ireland, or specifically the Republic of Ireland. Anglo-Irish. Relating to both Britain and Ireland, or specifically the Republic of Ireland. Animadvert. Formal, speak out against or criticize someone or something. Animalcule. Chiefly literary, a microscopic animal. Anti-globalization. Opposition to the agendas and actions of groups perceived to favor globalization. Antilogarithm. Mathematics, the number of which a given number is the logarithm. Antimacassar. A cloth put over the back of a chair to protect it from grease and dirt. Antivivisectionist. A person who is opposed to the use of live animals for scientific research. Anzac. A soldier in the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, 1914–18. AOK informal. Aperçu. A comment that makes a clever or entertaining point. Apothegm. British spelling of apothegm. Apostrophize. Punctuate a word with an apostrophe. Apothegm. A concise saying stating a general truth. Appiness. The condition of being Barbie. Aramaic. An ancient Semitic language still spoken in parts of the Middle East. Armor-plated. Covered with armor plate. Arm-twisting. Informal persuasion by the use of physical force or moral pressure. Arpeggi. The notes of a musical chord played in rapid succession. Arrivederci. Goodbye until we meet again. Asana. A posture adopted in Hatha Yoga. Assegai. An iron-tipped spear used by southern African peoples. Asset stripping. The practice of taking over a company that is in financial difficulty and then selling its assets separately at a profit. Asseveration. Formal, a solemn or emphatic declaration or statement. Association. A group of people organized for a joint purpose. At-risk. Vulnerable, especially to abuse or delinquency. Attitudinize. Adopt or express an attitude for effect. Afa. The distinctive atmosphere or quality associated with someone or something. Augury. A sign of what will happen in the future. Oral. Relating to the ears or the sense of hearing. Autodial. Computing of a modem, automatically dial a telephone number or establish a connection with a computer. Autodial. Computing of a modem, automatically dial a telephone number or establish a connection with a computer. Arachnid. A creature of a class including spiders, scorpions, mites, and ticks. Ava. Used to express satisfaction, triumph, or surprise. Awol. A small pointed tool used for making holes. Azimuth. Astronomy, the direction of a star measured horizontally as an angle from due north or south. Back to back. Following one after the other. Bad-tempered. Easily angered or annoyed. Bain-marie. A pan of hot water in which a cooking container is placed for slow cooking. Balafon. A large xylophone with hollow gourds as resonators, used in West African music. Ballcock. A valve that automatically fills up a tank when liquid is drawn from it. Balletomane. A ballet enthusiast. Balls out. Informal, without moderation or restraint. Banally. Boring through being too ordinary and predictable. Bang up. Informal, excellent. Banzai. A cry used by the Japanese when going into battle or in greeting their emperor. Barathea. A fine woolen cloth. Bali. Chiefly technical, forming or belonging to a bottom layer or base. Bas-relief. Art, low relief. Basic. Forming an essential foundation, fundamental. Bases. The underlying base on balls. Bear baiting. Historical, a form of entertainment that involved setting dogs to attack a captive bear. Beat up. Informal, worn out by overuse. Becalm. Of a sailing ship, be unable to move through lack of wind. Bedpanny. A container used as a toilet by a bedridden patient. Bee-eater. A brightly colored insect-eating Old World bird with a curved bill and a long tail. Bee's tongue. Informal, of a woman's lips, full and red. Bellis letters. Literary essays written and read for their elegant style. Belly full. A sufficient amount to eat. Benumb. Deprive someone of feeling. Beral. Restricting freedom of thought or behavior. Bereave. Be deprived of a close relation or friend through their death. Bespatter. Splash something with liquid. Abhorrent. Disgusting or hateful. Bibelot. A small ornament or trinket. Bienni. A small coastal fish with scaleless skin and spiny fins. Billet doux. Billets doux /D66C/ chiefly humorous, a love letter. Bindi eye. A decorative mark worn in the middle of the forehead by Indian women. Bioflavonoid. Any of a group of compounds occurring mainly in citrus fruits and black currants, sometimes regarded as vitamins. Biofuel. Fuel obtained directly from living matter. Bioinformatics. The science of collecting and analyzing complex biological data such as genetic codes. Biomorph. A design or decorative form resembling or representing a living organism. Biotherapy. The treatment of disease using substances obtained or derived from living organisms. Birdlime. A sticky substance spread onto twigs to trap small birds. Blackberrying. The activity of picking blackberries. Bladderwrack. A type of seaweed with long, flat brown fronds that contain sacs filled with air. Blindworm. Another term for slowworm. Bling bling / blink blink / also bling. Blist. Ca tist. Bloodletting. Historical, the surgical removal of some of a patient's blood for medical purposes. Blow-be-blow. Giving all the details in the order in which they happened. Movie. A low-budget movie, especially one supporting the main attraction in a double feature. Board sailing. Another term for windsurfing. Boastful. Showing excessive pride in oneself. Boathook. A long pole with a hook and a spike at one end, used for fending off or pulling a boat. Bobtail. A docked tail of a horse or dog. Bodice ripper. Informal, humorous, a sexually explicit historical novel or movie. Body snatcher. Historical, a person who illegally dug up corpses for dissection. Body surf. Surf without using a board. Borium. A very unstable chemical element made by high-energy atomic collisions. Bombazine. A twill dress fabric of worsted and silk or cotton. Bonsai. The art of growing ornamental trees or shrubs kept very small by pruning. Born again. Of a person newly converted to a personal faith in Jesus. Borzoi. A breed of large Russian wolfhound with a narrow head and silky coat. Bottle feed. Feed a baby with milk from a bottle. Bowdlerize. Remove indecent or offensive material from a written work. Breccia. Rock consisting of angular fragments cemented by finer chalky material. Bric-a-brac. Various objects and ornaments of little value. Bridge and tunnel. Living in the suburbs and perceived as unsophisticated. Bristling. A sprat, typically one smoked and canned. Broad brush. Dealing with something in a general way, lacking in detail. Broad spectrum. Referring to antibiotics, pesticides, etc., effective against a large variety of organisms. Broken down. Worn out and in a bad condition. Bronchiole. Any of the minute branches into which the bronchi in the lungs divide. Brother-in-law. Brothers-in-law, one the brother of one's wife or husband. Brown nose. Informal, a person who behaves in a very servile or ingratiating way towards someone in an attempt to gain their approval. Brush off. Informal, a rejection or dismissal. Absurd. Completely unreasonable or inappropriate. Bug-eyed. With bulging eyes. Built up. Covered by many buildings. Bull-necked. Having a thick neck. Bureaucratize. Ruin a government or organization by implementing or following administrative procedures that are too complicated. Burkinin. A person from Burkina, a country in Western Africa. Burnous. A long hooded cloak worn by Arabs. Bush baby. A small African mammal with very large eyes. Bust up. Informal, a serious quarrel or fight. Byroad. A minor road. Cabal. A small group of people who plot secretly to gain political power. Kabbalah. Variant spelling of Kabbalah. Kabbalistic. Relating to or associated with the Kabbalah. Cable knit. Knitted using cable stitch. Calciferol. Vitamin DS, essential for the deposition of calcium in bones. Calendula. A plant of a family that includes the common marigold. Callosity. Technical, a thickened and hardened part of the skin, a callus. Calmative. Having a sedative effect. Calumniate. Formal, make false and defamatory statements about someone. Camera ready. In the right form to be reproduced photographically onto a printing plate. Campanology. The art or practice of bell ringing. Canadianism. A word or phrase used or originating in Canada. Canola. Oilseed rape of a variety developed in Canada and grown in North America. Canalize. Convert a river into a canal. Candy striped. Patterned with alternating stripes of white and another color, typically pink. Candy striper. Informal, a teenage girl who does volunteer nursing in a hospital. Capacious. Having a lot of space inside, roomy. Capsulize. Put information in compact form. Caracal. Variant spelling of caracal. Carboload. Eat large amounts of carbohydrates, especially in preparation for athletic endurance. Carbon neutral. Making no net release of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, especially through offsetting emissions by planting trees. Card carrying. Registered as a member of a political party or labor union. Carpet bomb. Bomb an area intensively. Carrageen. An edible red seaweed with flattened branching fronds. Cash-strapped. Informal, very short of money. Cassia. A tree or plant of warm climates from which senna, a mild laxative, is obtained. Catcall. A shrill whistle or shout of mockery or disapproval. Catchpenny. Having a superficially attractive appearance so as to sell quickly. Cato ninetails. Historical, a whip consisting of a rope made from 9 knotted cords, used for flogging people. Cat's eye. A semi-precious stone, especially chalcedony or chrysoberyl. Cavean. A collapse of a roof or similar structure, typically underground. Cacao. The bean-like seeds of a tropical American tree, from which cocoa and chocolate are made. Caecum. British spelling of cecum. Caress. Touch or stroke someone or something lovingly. Cayman. Variant spelling of Cayman. Civvy. Informal one, a civilian. Complice. A person who helps another commit a crime. Curate. Correct in all details. Cedilla. A mark, comma, written under the letter C, especially in French, to show that it is pronounced like an S, Euro.G, soupçon. Celfo. A large instrument of the violin family, held upright on the floor between the legs of the seated player. Celibate. Not marrying or having sex, especially for religious reasons. Centigram. A metric unit of mass equal to 1/100th of a gram. Centimo. A unit of money of a number of Latin American countries, and formerly of Spain, equal to 1/100th of the basic unit. Ceramic. Made of clay that is permanently hardened by heat. Cervical. Relating to the neck of the uterus. Chain smoke. Smoke cigarettes one after the other. Channel surf. Informal change frequently from one television channel to another. Hanukkah. Variant spelling of Hanukkah. Charbroil. Grilled food, especially meat on a rack over charcoal. Cheapjack. Of inferior quality. cheerious, gloomy, depressing. Chef d'œuvre, a masterpiece. Chef d'œuvre, a masterpiece. Chiffonier, a tall chest of drawers. Chigo, another term for chigger. Chilblain, a painful, itching swelling on a hand or foot caused by poor circulation in the skin during exposure to cold weather. Chocoholic, variant spelling of chocoholic. Chock full, informal, filled to overflowing. Chorizo, a spicy Spanish pork sausage. Chrysalis, a butterfly or moth when it is changing from a larva to the adult form inside a hard case. Cicatrize, heal a wound by scar formation. Cirrocumulus, cloud forming a broken layer of small fleecy clouds. At high altitude. Clamdiggers, close-fitting calf-length pants for women. Clean cut, of a person, especially a man, neat and respectable. Clean cut, make someone or something clean. Cleanshaven, without a beard or mustache. Clear-sighted, thinking clearly. Clarihue, a short comic verse consisting of 2 rhyming couplets, usually referring to a famous person. Client-server, computing, referring to a computer system in which a central server provides data to a number of networked workstations. Cloak and dagger, involving intrigue and secrecy. Clock watcher, a person who constantly checks the time to make sure that they do not work longer than they are supposed to. Cloddish, foolish, awkward, or clumsy. Close-mouthed, reticent, not communicating freely. Club moss, a low-growing flowerless plant. Clubroot, a disease of cabbages, turnips, etc., in which the root becomes swollen and distorted. Coarsen, make or become coarse. Coatimundi, another term for coats. Coatimundii, another term for coat. Cock-a-doodle-doo, used to represent the sound made by a cock when it crows. Cock-a-hoop, extremely pleased. Cockajiki, a soup traditionally made in Scotland with chicken and leeks. Cockaliki, a soup traditionally made in Scotland with chicken and leeks. Coelenterate, zoology, a member of a large group of invertebrate sea animals that usually have a tube or cup-shaped body with a single opening fringed with tentacles, such as jellyfish, corals, and sea anemones. Coin, a projecting corner or angle of a wall. Cold call, visit or telephone someone without being asked to do so in an attempt to sell them goods or services. Collation, the action of collecting. Collaborator, a person who works with someone on an activity or project. Come hither, informal, flirtatious. Come in, informal, a gesture or remark intended to attract someone sexually. Commander-in-Chief. Commanders-in-Chief, an officer in charge of all of the armed forces of a country. Commode. A piece of furniture containing a concealed chamber pot. Commia. A punctuation mark, comma, showing. Communal. Shared or done by all members of a community. Communicate. Share or exchange information or ideas. Community. A group of people living together in one place. Commutate. Regulate or reverse the direction of an alternating electric current, especially to make it a direct current. Completion. The action of completing something or the state of being completed. Computer literate. Having enough knowledge and skill to be able to use computers. Confabulate. Formal have a conversation. Conferee. A person who attends a conference. Console. Comfort someone in a time of grief or disappointment. Containerize. Pack cargo into containers or transport it in containers. Contraindicate. Medicine, of a condition or circumstance, suggest or indicate that a particular technique or drug should not be used. Conventive. Variant spelling of convener. Colf. Pleasantly low temperature. Kopeck. Variant spelling of Kopeck. Coproduce. Produce a theatrical work or a radio or television program jointly. Copy edit. Edit written material by checking its consistency and accuracy. Corrugate. Contract into wrinkles or folds. Coruscate. Literary, USU. Corvine. Relating to or like a raven or crow. Cosignatory. A person or country signing a treaty or other document jointly with others. Coces. A lung disease caused by breathing dust containing silica. Counter-Reformation. The reform of the Church of Rome in the 16th and 17th centuries that was stimulated by the Protestant Reformation. Countrified. Variant spelling of countrified. Countryman / countrywoman or countrywoman. Court-martial. A court for trying people accused of breaking military law. Couturier. A person who designs and sells fashionable made-to-measure clothes. Crabwise. And ADJ. Crackbrained. Informal, very foolish. Cradle robber. Informal, derogatory, a person who has a sexual relationship with a much younger person. Crashland. Land roughly in an emergency. Crepuscularly. Informal, a spider, worm, or other small creature. Cretonne. A heavy cotton fabric. Cro-Magnon. The earliest form of modern human in Europe, appearing Euro. 35000 years ago. Cross-examine. Question a witness called by the other party in a court of law to challenge or extend the testimony that they have already given. Cross-fertilize. Fertilize a plant using pollen from another plant of the same species. Cross-grained. Of timber, having a grain that runs across the regular grain. Cross-legged. And adverb, of a seated person, with the legs crossed at the ankles and the knees bent outward. Cross-pollinate. Pollinate a flower or plant with pollen from another flower or plant. Cross-question. Question someone in great detail. Crowd-pleaser. A person or thing with great popular appeal. Cryonese. The deep freezing of the bodies of people who have died of an incurable disease, in the hope of a future cure. Tress. A female actor. Kumquat. Variant spelling of kumquat. Cupful. The amount held by a cup. Cure-all. A remedy that will supposedly cure any ailment or problem. Curtain raiser. An event happening just before a longer or more important one. Curvet. A horse's short energetic leap. Curious. Eager to know or learn something. Cut jet. A lamb or veal chop from just behind the neck. Quim. A steep-sided hollow at the head of a valley or on a mountainside. Quimi. A steep-sided hollow at the head of a valley or on a mountainside. Cybrid. Microbiology, a hybrid cell produced artificially by the fusion of two cells, one of which lacks a nucleus. Cylindrical. Having the shape of a cylinder. Cystitis. Inflammation of the urinary bladder, typically caused by infection and accompanied by frequent painful urination. Dairymaid. Old use a woman. Damascened. Of iron or steel, given a wavy pattern by hammer welding and repeated heating and forging. Dandle. Gently bounce a young child on one's knees or in one's arms. Darmstadtium. A radioactive chemical element produced artificially. Daughter-in-law. The wife of one's son. Addition. The action of adding. Debauch. Emerge from a confined space into a wide, open area. Decahedron. A solid figure with 10 plane faces. Deciliter. A metric unit of capacity, equal to. Decameter. A unit of length, equal to. Decimalize. Convert a system of coinage or weights and measures to a decimal system. Decontextualize. Consider something separately from its context. Deep-dyed. Informal complete. Deep fry. Fry food in enough fat or oil to cover it completely. Deep-rooted. Firmly embedded in thought, behavior, or culture, and so having a persistent influence. Defalcation. Formal the stealing or misuse of funds placed in one's trust or under one's control. De-ice. Remove ice from something. Deliquesce. Of a solid, become liquid by absorbing moisture. Demutualize. Change a mutual organization such as a savings and loan association to one of a different kind. Demythologize. Reinterpret a subject so that it is free of mythical elements. Denationalize. Transfer a nationalized industry or organization to private ownership. Denei. Half. Deoxygenate. Remove oxygen from. Depiation. The action of decreasing something. Depilate. Remove the hair from someone. Daring do. Dated or humorous action displaying heroic courage. Desury. Literary catch sight of someone or something. Desex. Deprive someone of sexual qualities. Deskill. Reduce the level of skill required to carry out a job. Dessert spoon. A spoon smaller than a tablespoon and larger than a teaspoon. Detumescence. The process of subsiding from a state of swelling or sexual arousal. Devitalize. Deprive someone or something of strength and energy. Dew-eyed. Naive or sentimental. Diabolism. Worship of the devil. Dial. A disc marked to show the time on a clock or to indicate a measurement by means of a pointer. Dicotyledon. A plant with an embryo bearing 2 cotyledons, leaves growing from a germinating seed. Dictos/dicto/ plural of pictum. Die off. The death of a significant proportion of a population. Diaeresis. A mark, placed over a vowel to indicate that it is sounded separately, as in naive. Dilly-dally. Informal dawdle or be indecisive. Dipsomania. Alcoholism. Discommode. Formal cause someone trouble or inconvenience. Discompose. Disturb or agitate someone. Discountenance. Refuse to approve something. Diseconomy. An economic disadvantage such as an increase in cost arising from an increase in the size of an organization. Disesteem. Lack of respect or admiration. Dismast. Break or force down the mast or masts of a ship. Dissoluble. Able to be dissolved, loosened, or disconnected. Distal. Chiefly anatomy situated away from the center of the body or from the point of attachment. Distasteful. Unpleasant or disagreeable. Dissyllable. Poetry, a word or metrical foot consisting of 2 syllables. Dive bomb. Bomb a target while diving steeply in an aircraft. Admittance. The process of entering, or of being allowed to enter. Doe-eyed. Having large, gentle, dark eyes. Do-gooder. A well-meaning but unrealistic or interfering person. Dog-tired. Extremely tired. Dogwood. A flowering shrub or small tree with red stems, colorful berries, and hard wood. Doyle. 1. A small model of a human figure, used as a child's toy. Do-it-yourself. Done or to be done by an amateur at home. Dollmaids. A Greek and Turkish dish of spiced rice and meat wrapped in vine or cabbage leaves. Dology. A method of diagnosing illnesses or conditions by examining the iris of the eye. Dordai. Showing or requiring a great determination to succeed. Dosido. In country dancing, a figure in which two dancers pass around each other back to back. Dubicross. Betray a person one is supposedly deliberately unclear or ambiguous. Double-barreled. Of a gun, having two barrels. Double-blind. In which information that may influence the behavior of the tester or subject is withheld. Double-breasted. Dobley Park. Double-dealing. Deceitful behavior. Double-decker. A vehicle with two floors, one SERS, CLE Cheryl, Soma AT on top of the other. Double-edged. Of a blade, having two cutting edges. Double entry. Relating to a system of bookkeeping in which each transaction is entered as a debit in one account and a credit in another. Double-jointed. Having C uncertainty, unusually flexible joints. Double park. Park a vehicle alongside one that is already parked. Doweling. Cylindrical rods that are cut into dowels. Downtorth. Practical and realistic. Downsy. Covered with fine soft hair or feathers. Draggle. Make something dirty or wet by trailing it on the ground. Drainboard. A sloping grooved surface next to a sink, on which dishes are left to drain. Drawn out. Lasting longer than is necessary. Dressing down. Informal, a severe reprimand. Drip dry. Able to dry without forming creases if hung up when wet. Drip feed. Supply a patient with fluid through a drip. Drive-in. That one can visit without leaving one's car. Dry clean. Clean a garment with a chemical solvent rather than water. Dubiety. Formal uncertainty. Dubnium. A very unstable chemical element made by high-energy atomic collisions. Duty-bound. Morally or legally obliged to do something. Diadenpool. Having firm beliefs that will never change. Eagle-eyed. Sharp-sighted and very observant. Ealculate. Determine the amount or number of something mathematically. Earless. Not giving sufficient attention or thought to avoiding harm or mistakes. Ear-piercing. Loud and shrill. Easel. A wooden frame on legs for holding an artist's work in progress. East-northeast. The direction midway between east and northeast. East-southeast. The direction midway between east and southeast. Eco-labeling. The use of labels to identify products that meet recognized environmental standards. Eco-warrior. Informal, a person involved in protest activities aimed at protecting the environment. Edentate. A mammal of a group that has no incisor or canine teeth, including the anteaters and sloths.